Hi everyone, I think that's all our screens starting to go in. Thank you all very much for coming and giving up some time. I hope everyone has been well. We've spoken to a few of you guys through some various VGBL meetings, but for those who are joining us from the domestic level, welcome, and I hope you guys have been doing well the last couple of months especially. This is the first coaching clinic that we're going to be running, hopefully every Thursday for the next 6 or 8 weeks, or however long we are at home. Tonight we've got Matt Foster, who's the head coach of our Hume Senior Broncos men's team, who'll be talking to us. He's going to go through a little bit about pre-season planning, session planning, goal setting, some offensive and defensive principles that he uses in his teams. And then we'll be able to talk a little bit about the BigV men's program and a few things that go on there. So a few of these things will be specific to the way the men's team do them, but they're all very adaptable to any level that you're coaching. So it's about goal setting and planning, building a team culture. These are all things that you can take back and apply to your own team. So I'll hand over to Matt. I think he's got a slideshow that he'll put up on the screen. And yeah, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. I stole half my material already, so I thought you were going to go through my slide deck. Thanks for having me, guys. Obviously, first off the ranks, guinea pig here, so hopefully we go right. Like Todd mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been using at the BigV level for our pre-season, in-season planning, some of our defensive principles, offensive principles, a little bit about how we recruit our imports, and obviously it's sort of slanted at the BigV sort of senior level, and I know we have a mix of some rep and some domestic coaches, so I'll try to relate that back in the past where I've used these types of things as well, in the junior age groups as well. So as much as we can be interactive over Zoom, that would be fantastic. I think Todd's going to monitor the chat. If we have some specific questions as we go through, please put them in there. Ciro, you just keep your questions to yourself, mate, and we'll have talk offline. But yeah, more than happy to chat for I think we've got 45 minutes. I'll try to get through this PowerPoint as quick as possible, and then we can leave time if we want to talk about what we've presented, or if you have any specific things or you want to know about anything we're doing in the men's, or more than happy to stay on and talk anything basketball. Can do that all night. So let me try to get this PowerPoint up firstly, so everyone can see it. Okay, that's all good. Todd, can see that? Okay. So basically, what we'll go through tonight, like we've already talked about, is sort of our season planning, how we go through our off-season, pre-season, in-season, and some examples of some of the templates and artifacts that we use through the year. A little bit about our defensive principles.
I don't think it's not showing up for me.
Oh, it's not showing up?
No, sorry.
Okay, it might actually
help if I hit myself on mute.
Oh, sorry. How's that?
That's
coming up. That's better.
That's better?
Yep, sorry.
That's good now? Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we'll go through our season planning. We'll go a bit through our defensive principles, our rules, our strategies, a bit on the offensive side of things as well. And then just some insights, I guess, for guys that might be interested around what we sort of go through when we're recruiting import players to the team. This is all sort of at a high level view. We're not really going to delve too much into X's and O's or into too much detail there, but happy if anyone has some questions and want to go through that. Okay, let's see. Okay, so basically, we planning for a season ahead. So there's the off season, which is a little bit extended at the moment. We've got a ton of off season. Not that I've been doing too much planning, to be honest, but during our off season, it's primarily around looking at what the roster is going to be like. I spend most of the time looking at what Aussie contingent players we have, or non-restricted players, and then looking at the imports to bolster any strengths or weaknesses that we look there. Looking at support staff, so who can help out as assistant coaches, managers, strength and conditioning, working with Todd in the office there as well. A lot of time talking about logistics around the housing and visas and flights and everything that goes to putting that team together. And above everything is, I guess, is being prepared, getting ahead of the game and making sure that we've got things ready to go. As far as the pre-season, so this is, I guess, where we would differ quite a lot from the junior program. We obviously don't have an extended season, and we don't sort of have the trial phases. So at the men's level, we break it down into 3 phases in for the pre-season. That being like pre-Christmas, we break for Christmas. The return phase of coming back after the break, when everyone's enjoyed, even though they say they won't, they've enjoyed the little break and may have put a couple of kilos back on that they'd lost during the pre-Christmas phase. And then when we move into practice games, it's sort of a 3-phase approach. With the pre-season, we're balancing obviously what condition the guys come back in shape, implementing their strategy, and the big one is about the availability. So when players are available to join throughout the pre-season. As I'm getting a little bit older, I think I'm getting a little bit more lenient on the players there and allowing them to come back as their other commitments allow. But yeah, it's sometimes we might have 4 or 5 players early, and then everyone wants to be on the practice court when it's a week before the game start. And the other thing that we're working through, which is a bit different, I guess, is integration of imports and other players that may have been overseas or playing in other leagues around the world. So typically, we're trying to get the imports in around February, mid-Feb, which is about a month out, 4 weeks out from the season start. And this last year, so we had the 2 imports. We had Jake Martin, who's kind of an American with an Australian passport, and we had Pete Poohendock, who was playing in overseas as well. So we had sort of 4 of our key players that were overseas at the start of the year. Typically, for the men's, I'd like to have around 3 to 4 practice games, and really that's as a gauge to see where we're at leading into the start of the year. I think it's as important or more important to make sure that we've got our strategies and our sets implemented. And we're constantly monitoring the group. So, do we need to adjust sets to the strengths or weaknesses of the team? Can I speed it up as far as the learning side, or do we need to slow it down? How are they in a physical condition? Are we getting injuries, all that sort of thing? I mean, obviously we go in prepared with a lot of plan, but if the squad that we've put together is not suitable for some of the things we're doing, we're not just going to keep doing that. We're going to adjust and try to work towards our strengths, I guess. And a big thing for me is from day one is we're setting and building that culture. And that's critical to having a successful year and a successful program. I've found over some time now, if you set those expectations early, you alleviate problems down the track. So where from day dot, from the first session, typically we would have a big squad meeting and we would set those expectations. We'll talk about I don't have like as far as team rules. So like, you must do this, you must do that. If you miss a Thursday night practice, you don't play, all those sort of rules. I just have a lot of expectations, and the guys have been around kind of know that if you don't meet those expectations, you kind of know about it. And as soon as we put rules in, I think we find, if it's say an import doesn't practice on a Thursday, it's going to be pretty hard to take an import out of a game when we're trying to win, that sort of thing. To help with that culture building, we're big on having a leadership group, and getting that leadership group to take ownership in everything we do, and then trying to build that team buy-in. It's a reasonably long year from sort of November-ish through to August, September. If it's just me and the assistant coaches yelling and screaming, and it's a one-way thing. It's not going to work. So we try to get the team to really buy in, and that's through the senior players and through the leadership group as well. And then when we move into the in-season, in that first couple of weeks, we're trying to get that balance right where we're ready. We're not trying to peak, in mid-March, early April, but we're trying to win some ball games early to take that pressure off. I'm really big on knowing who we're playing. So early on in the year, it's a little bit different. We haven't seen everyone play, and we don't know exactly what team rosters look like, but we do as much homework on the team rosters as we can to sort of know what their mix is, what their strengths and weaknesses might be. We'll work on the scouts from either previous years of players, and then as we get through the year, we'll be breaking down video and working through the scout of the opposition we're against, and then obviously working through the key personnel. Back to sort of when I was saying we modify and adapt, that's a big one as well. Like depending on sort of the IQ level and the level of our team to absorb some of that scouting material, we may be a bit more in depth, or we might dial it back a bit. Like this past year, I would say we were probably about middle of the road of an IQ team, maybe a bit below average. So our scouts were not as in depth. We pretty much went through, these are the averages of the teams, these are their main players, and this is some of the stuff they do. And other teams we've had in the past will break it right down to, what sets do they run, when do they run them, who they're looking for, and basically learning their plays as well. During the season, obviously, we want to know our team as much as we can as well. So we're modifying the information we give them. We know what to run, who to run it for, what to avoid, what we may be good at, what we're not so good at, and learning that as we get through. As I mentioned, early in the year, we're trying to get as many wins early to take that ladder pressure off us. So we don't want to be in a situation where we're looking at our wins and losses and having that pressure there. We want to, get a couple wins, take that pressure off, so we can work on things to get better. Where from the first day of preseason, we're always looking to be prepared for the playoffs. Okay, we're not looking to peak in March or April. We've always got our eye on peaking at the right time at the end of the year. So, I always tell the guys, we just want to get incrementally better, and there will be, a few ups and downs, but as long as we're trending upwards, that's where we want to be. So we're at our best towards the end of the year. Any questions at all in the chat, Todd, or we're all good?
Nothing at the moment, no.
You're watching it, or you?
I just checked it when you mentioned it. And
excellent. Fantastic. Okay, so like I mentioned before, being prepared, right? So, I'm a project manager by day, so maybe that's why I'm pretty focused on having dates and times and everything prepared basically for the roadmap for the year ahead. So this is like one of the artifacts we'll use. So we have our youth league and our men's combined, and we'll have, this was from the year before, and we'll have every session that we've got broken down and what time and the dates, and then I have a calendar where I'll be looking at what defensively and what offensively do we want to integrate into the team. So like this, just an example of that first preseason phase before Christmas. Our first session, defensively, we want to get our trans D in, we want to get our guarding penetration, and one of our defense is called choke. And then on the other side of the ball, we want to get our transition in, and we want to work on a 3-man game. And that, we'll sort of at that high level, that will plan us all the way through pre-season, and we can adjust as we go if we need to speed up or slow down. And, by the time we get to the start of the season, we've sort of got most of our sets in, both on the defensive side and offensive side of the ball, and somewhat prepared. We're not going to get 100% in by day one, and we're adapting to what the players can absorb. Last year was my first year at Broadmeadows, so largely a new group. So we probably didn't get as far into it as what I would have light. Whenever we're able to get back on the court again, hopefully for next season, we may have 6 or 7 guys that have already gone through it, and we can speed that up a little bit as well. And balancing this too. So basically that whole schedule you see there, imports are not there for any of that. So unless it's an import we've had previously, we don't want to implement everything and then have to go back over it again once the import comes. And then here's sort of an example of what we will use at every training session, broken down and working towards those high level goals of what we want to put in. So on the defense, where how we're guarding the ball, how we're stopping penetration. My thought is basically most offenses at the end of a shot clock are either dribble penetration or on ball screen. So if we can get good at those two things or decent at those two things, we at least have a chance in ball games. Just at the top part in the warm-up, probably worthy to note is we always do a jump program as part of our warm-up, which I super enjoy. I don't know, the players probably don't enjoy as much because it's hard work. But what I've found over the years is not only, does it help with a bit of athleticism and conditioning, we don't get many lower leg injuries. So it's really strengthening the ankles, the knees, not early. Early in the season, it's a couple of people pulling out from sore ankles and legs and calves and what have you. But it's good for conditioning and it really helps avoid those injuries going forward. So that's kind of where we're at with our planning around the season, pre-season. Still no questions, Toddles?
Nothing there, no. Feel free to put in the chat if you guys want to ask or send any question.
Yeah, if anyone wants a question, either just put in there or we can talk about it later on as well. So defensive rules. So, we have a bunch of general principles. I think the main thing is we want to be super aggressive on defense, and we can always dial it back from there. I'm a big believer in, like full court press, getting up on the ball handler, getting up in the lanes, denying the easy passes, and trying to dictate what the offense is doing and not reacting. And if that's not working for us, we can always dial that back. We can always come back into a half court. We can always come back into a zone. If we start in a zone or we start in a half court, it's very hard to ramp it up. So, there is times when we might be getting beat by someone who's a bit quicker or ball movement or what have you, but we can dial back from there. Communication is key on defense, right? We want to be aggressive. We want to be taking risks. We want to be pushing that tempo. There are big times when we're going to get beat. We recover by communicating with our teammates and letting them know what we're trying to do. We want to try to force people to put the ball on the floor, so force the penetration, then stop that penetration as a team and get all shots challenged. So, we're not laying off the ball handler and allowing them to set up and run their offense. We're trying to force them to, get their head down, over dribble into help, dribble into trouble. My philosophy is you can never help too early or too often. So if you're on your rotations, if you go early, you can recover from that. If you go late, you don't really recover. Some of the players we play against at our level, if you go late, you're getting dunked on. Again, you're in someone's highlight film. You guys, everyone here would have experienced this, right? You got your one of your or two of you guys on the weak side, not seeing the ball, hugging their man. Guys cutting to the weak side corner and they're guarding that within a meter of the man, whereas the guy with the ball is the most important guy. So we got to make sure we know where the ball is. We got to make sure we're ready to help the player who's up and aggressive on the ball. We want to hustle, we want to communicate, we're boxing out, we're taking charges. That's all about, our heart and our desire. Doesn't really matter, to be honest, what your body type is, what your athleticism is, all of those things. You can be a great defender if you want to be. I want my guys to make aggressive mistakes. If we break down every play, somebody's making a mistake, let's be aggressive with it and make a decision, go with it, and then we can recover from that. We can rotate, we can help. If you kind of should I, shouldn't I, I'm stuck in the middle, it's usually too late, and also your teammates don't know what you're doing, so it's hard to recover from there. You know, we try to build a roster where we've got some depth. So we ask our players play for as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then we'll get a teammate in and we'll rotate through. That might be 2 minutes, it might be 6 minutes. You know, playing it out at the level we're playing at and the tempo we're playing at, you shouldn't really be able to go more than 4 to 5 minutes. So just go hard. You know, I'm not, well, maybe I am getting that way, getting a bit older. I don't usually forget guys sitting on the bench, but you know, play hard, come out, get a break, get a drink, let your teammate do his job, and then get back in there. Our defense creates our offense, so we're trying to dictate what they do, and we're trying to get live ball turnovers, which leads out to our transition. You know, to me, it doesn't matter if we get a live ball turnover on their baseline, so the basket we're going at, or if we get it right under the rim. Okay, as long as we get a stop and stop the ball going through the hoop, I'm usually reasonably happy with that. We're super aggressive, we're attacking defense, it hinges on our ball pressure, you know, and our anticipation and a tough mindset. And you know, when the players get up and are on ball and taking risks, we want to rotate, we want to take risks, we want bodies flying all over the court. We will get beat occasionally with that, but usually we'll take the other team out of the tempo that they're trying to play in. And it's hard to practice at that tempo. It's hard to simulate that, so they might not be used to that level. So they're kind of some of the rules. And when I said before we don't really have rules, that's more around the team culture and preparation type side of things. In our defense and offense, we definitely have rules, and you definitely know about those if you don't abide by those rules and play by those rules. Sort of one of our above all, you know, some of the sort of, I don't know, mottos or whatever we go by is we just have extreme on-ball pressure, forcing the opponent away from what they want to do. We want to have active help. We always want to allow our team to put that pressure on the ball. Our communication and decisive actions are keys. Now, this is kind of just throwing some samples, I guess, of the different defensive strategies and offensive strategies that we have, just to give you, I guess, a view of the things the guys are learning and what we're implementing throughout the preseason and season. So we have basically 3 full court looks. So we have choke, which has basically our full court man with a couple of wrinkles to it. We have trone, which is like a trapping zone. There's a 1-2-2, can be 3/4 court, can be sort of half court. And we have face, which is where we're sort of face guarding the ball and trying to get them to throw it into a non-primary ball handler. We did sort of mess around a little bit with some more full court presses, like a 1-2-1-1. And we'll probably still teach those, but we wouldn't use them a lot either. In the half court, these are our zone sort of defense looks. So glove is like a 3-2 with a slider. And camo is something that we use that will start in a zone 1 or 2 passes or something. We would come back out to a man-to-man matchup. And depending, you know, like sometimes when I've had some pretty good teams, we maybe just run choke. We might just run man-to-man the whole time and not get too carried away with having any kind of, you know, trick defenses or different rotations or different looks. And other times, you know, when the matchups aren't great for us or we need to change tempo or something, we'll throw something in a little bit different. So they might take them out of their first or second options. Obviously, on top of this stuff, we would have like our on-ball screen coverages. So we go by colors: red, yellow, green, blue, and pink. Different looks on covering the on-ball. We have our different rotation sort of principles on, like, if there's a drive, we always push sideline baseline. We don't allow middle penetration. So if a guy dribbles baseline, you know, we help off the split and we rotate down, those sort of things. And then we would also have situational coverages. So, you know, if we're playing a team that's pretty strong on the post, we might look to double the post from the guard or from the weak side or what have you. And we'll work through those things as well. So that's kind of our defensive side of the ball. Offensively, we probably don't have as many principles and rules, to be honest. It's like we want to create offense out of our defense, and when we get that ball, we just want to attack. My main philosophy here, I guess, is on every possession, let's get the ball to the player with the best option to score for us on that possession. Okay, someone might be feeling it from 3, so let's try, like we got, is Sean on the call at all, Todd?
I don't
I
think
don't
I've
want to.
seen that.
I don't want to pump his tires up if he's
No.
on the call. Okay, good. So we got Sean, who's an unbelievable shooter, right? So we want to give him the ball where he can hit that 3. He's probably not as great getting towards the basket, so we don't want to give him the ball in the paint. We obviously have some imports at times who have some different strengths, so we want to get them the ball where they can do their best work. The players I try to recruit and the roster I try to recruit, we try to have some speed and athleticism. Opposite to the coaching staff, I guess, but we want the players to get up and down the court. I think it's an exciting game, exciting brand of basketball to play and also to watch. So we want to run the lanes and push the ball as hard as we can and attack. And worst case scenario, we don't score off that, but it gives us 2, 3, 4 seconds extra on the shot clock rather than walk that ball up and you get it over half court, you've got 16 seconds left. Very similar to our defensive stuff, right? Is we want our lane runners, which is our 2 and 3 men, we want them to run as hard as they can for as long as they can, and then we'll rotate guys through. So typically I'll talk to our starters and say, hey, you might run that lane 2, 3, 4 times in a row, and we'll get a rotation in and get a fresh guy in there. The other coach might not rotate as quickly, and then the sub is going to benefit from the hard running that you've done because the guy guarding him is not going to be able to cover him the next 2 or 3 times down the court. All right. We want to execute the play. If you go out of the offense, you want to be scoring, because when you go out of the offense, you're the only person who knows what you're doing, especially early in the year. Maybe towards the end of the year, we've sort of learned to play a little bit more together. But early on, if you go out of it, you're the only person really that knows what you're doing. So we want to try to stay within the play and score off the play. When I tell the guys very early in the year that you must know all the players and all the options, or you be my best friend and sit next to me on the bench for the whole game. Because if you don't know how to execute the plays, you can't play for us. And I think that traverses from seniors all the way through. I mean, you might not be running plays as much in, say, under 10s or whatever, but you want the players to know what you're trying to do and what the other guys are trying to do, other players are trying to do, or else it makes it very hard to get them on the court. When it comes to shooting, we never really get on guys for bad shot selection. I say, is that a good option? And if they think it was, we'll go and watch film and say, well, have a look, is it still a good option? But we want guys shooting with confidence, not second guessing it. Similar to on the defensive end, make a decision, go with it, and we can adapt and learn from that. So they're kind of our offensive stuff. This is kind of our playbook of all the different offenses that we have that have adjusted over the years. So this year we started to run a lot more flow. And that was really we put together a roster this year where we had a lot of players that could play different positions. We didn't really have, I mean, we had Big Pete, who probably is more of an inside player, although he tells you he's an outside player and likes to shoot 3 ball. But we had a lot of guys probably between that 6'4" to 6'6" range that could play, 2 to 4. So I thought flow kind of gets guys in different positions that use their abilities. Then we have a bunch of sort of quick hitters in numbers, and fists is a bit of an on-ball play. So we have quite a few different looks, but we don't, this wouldn't all be implemented by game 1, and some of it we might teach early, and especially like a quick hitter, and we may not use it for another 2 months or so. And then what I would also like to do, depending on how our year's gone, is we usually implement something or focus on something we haven't ran a lot during the year, a month out from playoffs, so we've got something different that teams may not have scouted. And then obviously we've got our zone stuff as well. So we tended not to see too much zone against us last season, or the last time we got to play. And that was probably more to do with, we had quite a good shooting team. So, we had a lot of shooters, so we didn't get zoned up too much. And then we So we have numbered break. I haven't got that on here, but we have a numbered transition. So our 2-man always runs a right wing, a 3-man always runs a left, a 4-man runs the middle, sort of, I don't go rim to rim, but down the lane line, which is a bit different. A lot of people have their 5-man, and then our point or our 1-man brings the ball up, and our 5-man trail. So lots of times, people don't like to be the 5-man, right? Because you're just back to the basket post and don't come outside the keyway. But our 5-man is quite often, like we had a Lee Jacker. A lot of you guys might know Lee played our 5-man for a lot of time, so it helped us. We had 2 primary ball handlers in the back court. We had Lee trailing down into an open shot. When we reverse the ball, we have a point guard running the set from both sides of the court. So, and then we have our sideline plays. So we play. We don't just get the ball in. We have sets out of the sideline, and of course we have the baseline plays as well. So yeah, that's kind of a very high level view of our offensive strategy. We adjust this, over the many years. There's lots of different things. I've forgot probably more things I remember that we can run or do run. So depending on what our team makeup is, we will adjust and drop things and add things. I'm not precious on any of this stuff. So if it's not going to work, we're not going to force it down the guy's throat. And we're not going to run stuff that's not going to be effective for us. Not sure, some people may be kind of interested in how we recruit and import. So we're allowed in our league to have 2 restricted players. Primarily they're coming from the US. We're fortunate enough that last year anyway, we had Jake Martin as well, who's mother is an Australian, so he's got an Australian passport, so he classified as a non-restricted player. And we had some other guys as well. They've played overseas and basically Australian, so that helped out a bit. But when we're recruiting imports, like I said before, it's all about what our needs are. So I've had in the past, like when I come from Perth, so when I was coaching in WA, we had the number 1, number 3 scorer in the league, and we didn't even make playoffs because our Aussie contingent wasn't great. So it's like building that Aussie side of the roster, and then getting the imports to fit that. Like, I'm not fussed, and I tell the imports when they first get off the plane, you don't need to come and score 20 and 10 for us. If you score 6 points and if we make the playoffs and make the grand final, I'm happy. We will, unless we get a knucklehead and a guy who's not doing the right thing. If I've recruited the wrong guy, it's my fault, and we won't cut players. We won't cut an import because he's scoring 6 points and getting 3 rebounds. That's my bad. So hopefully that takes a little bit of pressure off them and allows them, to fit in a little bit. We'll only try to recruit high character guys that fit the program, fit the club. Everyone probably has seen examples of where that hasn't happened, and it just causes problems for everybody. We will try, if we can, not to deal with agents. This cause all kind of headaches, and typically, make everything cost about 10 to 15% more. The availability of players is a big thing. Unless the guy's an absolute superstar, I'd prefer to have someone probably not quite as good, but available, a month out from the season, and be able to, hit the ground running and play for the full year, rather than missing X amount of games and putting pressure on you to win those games when he's back. Obviously, before we even look too much at the players, we'll be talking about what budget we have available, and the budget, cost is more than just like a weekly cost. It's like the game payment, the flights, the visa, the license, the agent fee, any accommodation, transport. Todd can probably give another 10 things that we have to cover off on that as well. We'll scout what their background, the various options that we have, because there's probably, 20,000 imports looking to get gigs all around the world. So there's a ton of options. So we'll look at all the various options, their backgrounds, what their basketball resumes are, where they've played. I tend to go for the younger guys who are out of college, because sometimes you tend to get a bit more talented players who haven't yet built their resume. If they've already been to Europe or played in big leagues, it's very hard for us to get them at the level we're at. So if we can get the, sort of sacrifice, I guess, for a bit of experience and get their first year out of college, we sometimes will get a really exciting talent. And hopefully, my thing is if we only have them for a year and we can help them, like in the past, go to the G League or go into Europe or play around the world, fantastic. And then and also talk to different contacts. As we all know, right, basketball tends to be a small world. We know a lot of different people around in the US or over here that may know of players and know what their background is and what they're like and that sort of thing. So that all happens basically before we talk to the player. So we, don't, kind of want to waste their time or waste our time if they're not a good fit. So get all that background work done, and then we'll talk to them. And the first thing really is to give them a call and just talk to them in general to them, not so much even about basketball, just have a chat with them, and you get a good feel on, are they going to be the right fit for our program just by what questions they ask, how they answer questions, how responsive they are, the sort of things they're saying to you. And quite often I'll ask them to, are they willing to sacrifice a little bit for us to come out 2 weeks early and potentially not get paid their full amount, or I'm back and forth to the US quite a bit, so are they willing to come and meet me in the US and spend a few days with me and get to learn about each other and all that sort of stuff. And typically most of them are willing to make that sort of sacrifice because we've done that background, but that tells you a lot about what they are as a person and likely to be as a player. And then we progress from there, and we will go into negotiate and be really upfront. And this is how much you'll get paid. This is where you'll live. This is the type of car you'll drive. These are the expectations on you on a weekly basis. So there's no surprises. We're not telling them that we're in, that we're going to live in Turak and that you're going to drive a Tesla, and we're going to pay you X amount and you don't have to do anything off the court and stuff. Okay, I think that was the last slide, really. Yeah, so that's the last slide. So I could stop sharing my screen now. Okay, so I guess that was a quick whirlwind, explanation or sort of recap on where we're at in a few of the different areas in our program. Any questions, anybody? Or there's two chats.
Yeah, there's one in the chat. If you can just answer that one from Mark there. Mark's one of our 16 boys rep coaches.
Yep. So the expectation. So above and beyond our expectation of all the expectation is basically we say don't do anything to harm yourself. And we're talking probably I guess about basketball wise here. So going out the night before or missing training or doing things that's going to impact your ability to perform, because then that's going to really impact the team and what they can do. We expect that everybody's at practice, even if they're not able to practice. So I'm not a big believer in, I tweak my ankle so I can't come to practice, or any other reason. There's, if you're sick and contagious, which is probably, situation we're in now, but don't come along. And also at our level, I guess we're at a difficult level where a lot of guys still work or have schooling or go to uni. So, my philosophy kind of is families first. Any family commitments, your work and schooling is second, and then basketball is kind of a close third to those. But having said that, if you want to be in the program, you got to manage your time. So, when we've got some younger guys and they're going through year 12, which is a tough year, you got to manage your timetable, and don't tell me on a Tuesday night that you can't practice on Thursday and you can't be there because you got a sack on Friday afternoon or Monday or something like that, right? Like, get your study done early. And if it's first thing in the morning, I get that because we tend to have late practices, but you know, you organize yourself so you can give your best to the team. You know, we expect the players don't necessarily have to like each other or you know, get along sort of off the court, but they have to respect each other and work together. And you know, our team, you know, usually we have a squad of about 13 to 15. So it's not going to work if we just have one or two, you know, or three good players. Typically, you know, I tell the guys this often is every team's going to have two good imports, you know, or a third top level player. They're going to cancel each other's out, right? So we need our role players, and we need the guy who's 12th man to be ready, and we need to respect that guy who might come in and, you know, get one or two possessions for us and help us, you know, win a game or lose a game or what have you. But yeah, so respecting them, respecting the teammates. You know, we will work extremely hard, as our players would probably tell you, but we'll have a lot of fun along the journey. But we'll have fun by working hard and seeing the results. So, you know, be prepared to put in some work, and you'll see the rewards for that. And yeah, I have a list that usually we'll go through in the pre-season at our team meeting that will sort of go through the different expectations as well, and what they it's expected from them. And another key one, and it's something that my college coach many years ago when I played at college used to say, and he used to always say, no hooks in your ass. So basically meant, you know, if you have an issue, make sure you discuss it with either the coaches or with the leadership group. Don't let it, you know, fester and become a problem later on. So that's just a saying he had, and I've carried on, is, you know, like, communicate to us. It might be something that's quite trivial, but if you let it grow and you fester, it could damage our team. So let's talk to it early. One thing that we've done, and we probably need to continue to build off that, is we combine our men's program and our youth league program, and sort of our 20s as well. And we have leadership groups, so we'll have 4 to 5 of our senior players as a leadership group, and then we'll put you know, different players within each one of those pillars, and we'll spend 10 minutes before practice or in the preseason, just the groups will go off and they'll chat. And it doesn't have to be about basketball, it's just about how each other's going, you know, how you're feeling, those sort of things, so that we want to build that relationship between the senior and junior players. And I'm also conscious of the fact that, you know, lots of players might not want to communicate with me an issue they're having or something. That might have been one of our players that scrolled on the screen before, I don't know, but they might not feel comfortable coming to me, you know, about something. So, you know, let Sean Prendergast know, or let you know, one of the players know that can help you out as well. So that's, yeah, some of the sort of expectations, I guess, the non-negotiables. So we have sort of some non-negotiables that are off the court as well, and some stuff that we have to get done, like you know, I mean, it was a bit of a challenge, but we had to get people to wear the certain dress code when they're coming to games. And it's not something as a coach that you want to have to worry about someone wearing black slacks and a polo and dress shoes, you know, like, you'd want to say it once and then they do it. But we also have non-negotiables on the court. So like I mentioned earlier, there's no middle penetration is one non-negotiable. No paint catches, so not allowing your player to get in front of you in the paint and catch the ball in the paint. And no face cuts, so not allowing, you know, a player to cut from the weak side to the strong side in front of you. They're sort of the non-negotiables we talk about, and we think if we can achieve those, it puts us in a good position from there. Any other questions at all?
I've said it, so if you've got a question, you can unmute yourselves and ask it as well as in the chat. No.
No luck, Todd. No luck.
I've got a question.
Yeah, mate. Go Nick.
I've got two.
Like the hair, mate. Like the hair too, hey? Getting a bit bored in lockdown, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if it's a regret or not yet, but I've got two questions for you.
Yep.
In regards to your pre-season training,
Yep.
are you working the boys hard up pre-Christmas or in your return phase? Because obviously you're going to work them hard pre-Christmas and they're going to go, they're going to obviously do what they do.
Have a bit of a break. Yeah. So we're building up, conscious of the fact that they are having a break. I think last season we broke for probably about 2 weeks over that period. So hopefully it's not too much time from the lose that. But we do go pretty hard pre-Christmas because we're not putting a lot of the sets and strategies in that period. So it's more about getting that body right to allow us to do that later on. And I guess that, the sessions are probably harder after Christmas, but because we've built that base, the players are kind of already in some kind of shape to get through those, although they'll probably tell you they're bloody hard the whole time. But so we are conscious that they're going to have a break, but we do work pretty hard before, and then we're working hard. Then we kind of tail off a little bit to freshen up a week or two before the season starts, and then just manage that throughout the season.
And also, when your 2 and 3 men are running the lanes in transition,
yep,
you're telling them to curl under the basket and go opposite wings, or are you going bouncing out from the baseline up, or
in game play, in game situation, because they might be wherever they are on the court. Basically, the rule is that we want them to get to their lane before they get to half court. So the 2-man's always running that right lane, and if once he hits the right lane, we say chin on shoulder, so he should be looking here and having a target, so he can look back. If we're getting pressed or we're getting trapped in the backcourt, he can bounce back off before he gets over half court, because we don't want him to get over half court, bounce back, and we get, we don't want to put referees in a position they can make calls. They struggle enough as it is. So if we can stop before we get to the half and come back and help, and then if they haven't got the ball, they should continue down that sideline, chin on shoulder, looking, given a target. And if they don't get the ball, bounce off the baseline, back up the baseline. If it's like, if he's deep in the corner, he's got to get through traffic and get to the spot before he hits the half court.
Yep.
Yeah. When we're doing drills, and we might be doing transition up, transition back, some of the players think that they can test us, and they don't. They go, I'm a 2-man going this way and a 3-man going back, because it's a lot easier than having to cross. But we will get them to cross under the baskets and get back out in their lanes there. Yep. And our 4-man will run that. So if the 1-man's coming up, say the right side, I want my 4-man running the left lane, the left lane line, not right down the middle. So then the angle that passes a little bit better. So we want the 2, 3, and 4 racing down the court, and the 1-man hopefully rewarding them with the outlet pass and getting layups.
No one else who might be.
I've got a quick one, Todd. I'm going to ask a question.
Good.
Hey, Simon.
I'm only reasonably new to the program. I had 18 boys this year.
Yep.
And I asked a few different people, so what do the seniors do? What are they, like, I've got 18, so they're progressing up to you guys shortly.
Yep.
Don't you think it would be something worthwhile to, here are the fundamental principles of Broadmeadows basketball. We don't allow face cuts. We're on ball pressure the whole time. All of those 4 that you just rattled out before as, we don't allow them to catch in the paint. That just filter right through. So we're teaching that from under 10s.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to teach it when they get to you. They've been doing that as a basic from under 10s right the way through, and make it that the whole of Broadmeadows basketball is about defense, and our offense comes from our defense. Because my son started playing in, I think, the 14 5s, and just rudderless shit. Like, the coach is a great guy, but he had no direction as to where he was going or what he was trying to teach the kids. And they had no defensive fundamentals whatsoever.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah, I love that, Simon. I've been at clubs before where we've done something similar. I think there has to be a balance, right? Because you have a lot of different strengths and coach a lot better than areas that I would coach. So, I don't want to force things onto, and like Melbourne Tigers, right? They run the whole program runs the same plays, and it works for some groups and some coaches and not other groups. But I think definitely having a base set of, principles or guidelines on how we could progress things through the age groups and through that pathway would be fantastic. Yep.
And for me, it's all defense. The offense, the kids will work on their offense by themselves. I think we need to coach them defensively.
Yeah,
because they'll
100%.
take care of the offense along the way through different coaches and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's all they work on when they're by themselves.
Yeah,
is their
no one
offensive
works on their
stuff.
slide, right? And the other thing too, like I tell our guys, if we can be good defensively and keep a score, in the 60s or 70s, we don't have to be super special that day offensively. We can be average offensively and still be in the ball game late in the fourth quarter. If we're bad defensively and the scores in the 90s and 100s, shit, we need to be pretty dang good offensively, and be shooting a good clip and getting a good score to compete. So I'm very much of the mindset of defense drives everything. And more than happy to be involved if that's something that we want to look at doing. We've done that at other clubs where it's like sort of a checklist. Under 10s is a lot different than 18s and a lot different than men, but you're building on some building blocks and principles. And it's like I don't teach any kind of real technique or anything anymore. Once I get them, if they're 24 and they cross their legs on defensive slide, it's like, well, I'm not going to change that if you haven't changed that in the last 10 years. I guess our thing is all about getting the job done, right? So I don't care how you do it, but you get from the split line to challenging a shot or closing out and challenging a shot. You can do a cartwheel if you want, but if you can get there and do it, do it. At under 10s, I would be teaching technique a little bit more, but in the past we've had checklists. So in under 10s, you're doing this sort of thing, 12s, 14s, 16s, all the way through. Yes, I definitely agreeable to that idea, Simon.
Yeah, look, it's definitely something that as a club we've identified we need to do better. I think getting the senior men, the youth men, and the 21s, both in the men's and women's side, is something that's improved a lot over the last 12 or 18 months. But we definitely need to have that flowing down into 18s, 16s, and 14s and 12s. So that's something we have talked about, and we need to try and find better ways to do that. Because I think, as you said, if we're teaching the right things at the younger ages, then it means we don't have to reteach it or teach it differently when they get through. So that's something we'll definitely try and get better at when we get back on court later in the year.
Cool. Ciro, you must have a question for me, mate. Come on.
I made sure he
Or did you kick Ciro off because he was the one writing on the screen, was he?
I got one all right, because you used to coach 18s, or you coached Daniel in 18s.
Yeah, yep.
Obviously, that's a VC side, so you have to win. But obviously, all us coaches, how do you balance the developing and then the winning? Do you put different hats on for the different phase of the season? Say grading, you really want to win. Chunk of the season, you want to, I guess, just develop them? Or how did you balance in juniors? You're developing the players, but also trying to stay competitive because you had the first side.
Yeah, I guess it a lot depends on what the situation you're in as well, right? If you're lucky enough to get a team that's, a VC team and is going to compete for the classics and stuff, it might be a bit different than if you're not as talented, I guess, and don't have that player group. But yeah, it's a tricky balance, right? I mean, it's tricky at all levels to get that balance right of going for the wins, and limiting court time for players, especially at the junior level. That's that can be a tough sell to parents and kids, and that development. But my thing, is the younger the team you have is, the more focus should be on the development, and the winning will take care of itself. The older you get, you would hope that they've done that development, and the focus can shift a little bit more onto the winning side of it. And a lot of the development as well, if kids and parents are really focused on being elite basketball players, is done away from the team setting as well. You're doing your individuals, you're working with players away from that as well. But I think through most of the teams I've had in the past, I guess in juniors, I've been fortunate enough where you've got a strong team. You can balance that. So when you play the weakest sort of teams, I guess you can get a bit more development in, or you can get your 8th, 9th, 10th players playing a little bit more. You can work on some stuff. I've had quite a few times in the past when I've been coaching juniors that the other coach or the other parents or players aren't really happy with you because you're absolutely killing a team. But I'm not really worried about what their development is or what they're about. I'm just trying to make our team better. And if we're working that week on full court press or transition play or whatever, I'm not worried. I'm not trying to run the score up. Like, I don't care what the scoreboard says, but it's focusing on how our team's playing and how we're getting better. But yeah, I think overall it's you want to take a team from point A to point B, and you want to improve as many players as you can, and that will take care of the wins a little bit as well.
Just quick, I got one more.
Yeah, mate.
I don't know. I coached the 16-1s, and I was versed a lot of first sides in the the grading phase and stuff. And I see a lot of coaches now switching to like basically every half court set having an on ball, like starting with an on ball.
Yeah.
On ball. I'm not overly big on having on balls all the time. I think away screens are a bit more effective, especially if you have like a good shooter, someone with good footwork coming off. It helps. So, are you big on ball screens being in your half court sets, or is it just, or are you relying on ball screens when it's more like you said, when other teams do it toward the bottom of the shot clock, trying to get it quickly?
It really depends on what sort of players you have in your team and what their strengths are. Like, if we don't have anyone that can use an on ball, I'm not going to run any sets with on balls. We have a kid called Shaz that was in our team last year, who's only 5'8" or something, but super quick. And half the time, we don't even have a press break when he's on the court. It's just like, get out of his way and let him go. All right. But then, like, when we have Lee Jecker, who's super smart, super crafty, you just have to put a player in an on-ball situation, like a screen there for him, and you're going to get a good shot off it because he's going to use that to his advantage. So I'm not sold either way, to be honest. We try to have enough variety in the sets that we put in, that, hey, we have on-ball situations where other teams aren't good at guarding it. They might switch all the time, and we get a good matchup there. And we have other sets that don't have any on balls in it as well. So if they guard it, if they're doubling aggressively really hard and shooting the gaps and causing us problems, we go away from on balls. So I think with everything, especially in the juniors and senior, like, you want to have a mix of being able to do everything, right? If you've had, like, if Brody, for instance, if we said we're going to put an on-ball offense in, everyone has to run it. Well, what happens when the kid goes to college and they don't have any on-ball offenses, like their stuff, right? Or if we always teach, you have to catch left, right, shoot, even which way you're going, that's the footwork. Well, what happens in a game situation when you land on your right? You're going to be 0%. So I think, players will ask me that a lot during the, how do we do it? Do we do it this way or this way? I said, well, let's do it both. Let's learn to do it both. So then in any situation, we've at least practiced that before. But I do think defensively, you must be great at guarding an on ball, because like you said, lots of teams do it.
else?
No questions for your senior men's team, Todd, for your domestic team?
I've got lots. But
Surprised you didn't do the intro with your highlight film.
I mean, this has already gone for an hour. This would have taken days if I had done that. Would have been out of control.
Excellent.
All right, I might wrap it up if that's all questions we have. Firstly, thank you to Matt for giving up his time to come and speak to everybody. I think there was some really good things covered that, as I said, everyone can take back and apply to their own situations. Thanks to everyone that's taken the time to come and attend this tonight. I know it's hard when we're not on court to stay motivated to try and better your coaching, but it's good to see so many people here. We will have some more sessions. We're trying to run these every Thursday night, keep a bit of a pattern of routine. So I know we already have Brett Atley, who's going to join us next week. Brett oversees the men's BigV program as a whole, so the senior men, youth men, 21 boys. And he's going to talk a little bit, I think, about in-game coaching, some tactics, tournament play, things like that are really applicable to especially VGL coaches, but also helpful to domestic as well. So we'll get some links out to that on email and Facebook, where that will be next Thursday, same time, 7:30. So if no one else got any more, you got nothing else, Matt?
No, all good. No, thanks for having me. If anyone has questions or wants to chat or whatever, just let Todd know, and more than happy if you give out my contacts, or not to that one guy that scribbled on the screen, but anyone else, sure, more than happy to have a chat at any stage.
I did work out who that was. It was someone that came back with the name Pikachu, so definitely some sort of bot or spam going on, but we've removed them, so it's all fine.
Excellent.
All right, well, thanks. I'll let you guys go. And hopefully, we'll see everyone next Thursday.
Yep, cheers for that. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Thanks, Matt. Good job.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.